France borders 10 different countries, but which country does France share its longest border with? Is it Spain? Is it Belgium? It's actually Brazil. If you take a look at these little countries between Brazil and Venezuela, there's Guyana, a former British colony that gained independence, Suriname, a former Dutch colony that gained independence, and French Guiana, a former French colony that went the exact opposite way to independence, instead becoming a full-fledged region of France, just like Normandy or Île-de-France. To translate that into freedom speak, that's the equivalent of a metric Hawaii becoming a US state. So why did it go this way? Does the region actually want independence? And can I suss enough material out of this place to make a full-length video for my channel? This video was brought to you by Blinkist. Well, first, let's get to know this area a little better. Okay, so this is French Guiana.
Bonjour.
It's a French overseas region located on the northern coast of South America, between Suriname and Brazil. Yes, it turns out even France is going to Brazil. Home to around 300,000 people, 65,000 of whom live in the capital Cayenne, whose name may or may not share the same etymology as the pepper. The northeastern coast of South America, an area known as the Guianas, or Guianas, was divided between France, the Netherlands, Britain, Spain, and Portugal. These became respectively the place we're talking about today, the independent nations of Suriname and Guyana, the Guiana region of Venezuela, and the Brazilian state of Amapá. While French presences in the area have been recorded as far back as 1503, it was 140 years after that when Cayenne was founded. The colony of French Guiana would develop first as a slave society, with its population made up mostly of slaves imported from Africa in the transatlantic slave trade. As the French colonial empire began to wane in the Americas, and failing to truly colonize the area, French Guiana would then develop as a penal colony, with Cayenne's infamous Devil's Island hosting 56,000 political prisoners throughout its operation, brought over mostly from mainland France, roughly a tenth of whom would actually survive their sentences. While French Guiana was officially ruled by Vichy France after Paris fell to Germany in World War II, the colony would come to support the Allied Free France. And in 1946, French Guiana would be transformed from a colony to a full overseas region, alongside nearby Guadeloupe and Martinique. Now, while French Guiana uses the euro, and is even featured on the designs of the banknotes, and its residents are French citizens with the same rights and duties of any native-born Parisian, it is not in the Schengen area. However, it is still very much part of the European Union, meaning that citizens of non-France EU countries can still live here as if they were moving to Lyon, but maybe a little further. This makes it the largest piece of land in the European Union outside of Europe, since Greenland doesn't play in that club, and one of only 3 of these territories that are not also islands, the other 2 being Ceuta and Melilla on the North African coast, which belong to Spain. Why does Spain have entire cities in Africa? Hint, hint, click, click. This is all different to overseas territories or collectivities, like French Polynesia, New Caledonia, or Saint-Pierre and Miquelon, which are not part of the European Union, make their own laws in most regards, and even elect their own presidents. Well, still subservient to the French president, I guess. According to the 2019 French census, only about 56% of the French Guyanese population was actually born in French Guiana, with roughly 10% hailing from metropolitan France and a few more from France's other overseas territories and departments. The remaining 30% comprises immigrant groups from all over the place, with Brazilians, Haitians, Surinamese, Indians, Syrian refugees, and even Chinese and Southeast Asians. Following France's decolonization of Southeast Asia, with communist forces taking over Laos and the Vietnam War happening around that time, France would relocate hundreds of Hmong refugees to French Guiana, resulting in the area still having a sizable Hmong community to this day. But French Guiana is mainly important to France and Europe as a whole for space reasons. You see, if you want to go to space, you go up 100 kilometers, but you'll just fall right back down unless you're also going sideways. And since Earth has some pretty strong gravity, you will need to move sideways really fast, like almost 8 kilometers a second fast. You can do this in any direction, but the easiest way to move is eastwards, since you get a small boost from the Earth's rotation. And although you can still get the boost from any nonpolar latitude, it gets stronger the closer to the equator you get. It's also easier if you put it on the eastern coast of a continent so that if a rocket fails in the upper atmosphere, the debris won't fall over any inhabited areas. China. Thus, the Guiana Space Center in Kikoru, the primary launch point for the European Space Agency, and the closest major launch site to the equator. The site was established in 1964 at the request of President Charles de Gaulle to replace an older base in the recently independent Algeria, and to stimulate the economy of French Guiana. However, despite its continued importance to the local economy, very few locals actually work in or for the Space Center. Of course, the fact that France and Brazil share a 700-kilometer border is not just a fun trivia fact to know for Sporkle quizzes, it also means a lot for those on either side of the border. This isn't just like me talking about how the US has a maritime border with Russia. No, this actually matters. Oh, just diss my entire channel there. Basic necessities can be up to 5 times as expensive on the French side than the Brazilian side. However, French Guiana is also rich in metals and minerals, most notably gold, which has attracted many across the border from the other side, whose illegal mining poses a serious risk to the region's rainforests. These rivers, however, still serve as a lifeline to the many towns and villages that line their banks, with most of the population living either along the coastal core of the region or along the Oyapock and Magani rivers. Meanwhile, others, like Zauana, can only be— oh my god, what? How? Anyway, more inland villages, like Zauana, can only be reached by aircraft. There are roads and highways stretching across the northern coast, but once you get further inland, well, I hope you don't need roads, because where we're going, we don't have roads. Now, of course, the real question with all this is the literal title of this video. Unless I've changed it. YouTubers tend to do that a lot if a video's not doing well. But anyway, why is French Guiana still a part of France? Simply put, in a 2010 referendum, 70% of French Guyanese voters voted against greater autonomy from France, let alone independence. French Guiana's GDP per capita sits at around 15,000 euros, which, while dismal compared to metropolitan France, is still well ahead of neighboring Brazil and Suriname. That's not to say everything is fine in French Guiana just because they're a part of France, with poor infrastructure, limited access to healthcare, illegal gold mining, and poor economic prospects for many locals being just some of the biggest issues plaguing the region. But by all accounts, the region doesn't particularly seem to want independence. And no one in the area has any particular desire to have it for themselves either. So whichever way things go in the near future, as long as problems don't suddenly get significantly worse, it's very likely that this little chunk of land on the northern tip of Amazonia and its 300,000 residents will probably remain at least some degree of French for the foreseeable future. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but when you have so many options to choose from, how do you know which ones are even worth your time? I have a project for you. I need you to find everything you can on ancient Rome. The fate of the world depends on it. How am I supposed to learn all this information in so little time? What if someone could break these books down into 15-minute summaries? But who could be powerful enough to do such a thing? By God, they have everything from Prisoners of Geography to Yummy Park's autobiography. Science, history, psychology, politics, they must have over 5,500 titles to choose from. These are more than just summaries, you know. But surely nothing can replace reading these books in full. You're right, but Blinkers will show you which ones you'll find worth reading. You need to click the link in the description. What, you're not coming with me? Their Memorial Day promo will guide you, with books like Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging, or The Gun Debate. Just get a 7-day free trial and 50% off an annual membership and go! But quickly, you only have until May 29th. The fate of the universe depends on you.